Hello and welcome to Dolan Unfiltered, where we talk off the cuff and nothing is off the table. In just a few minutes' time, I'll give you an update on the relationship between King Charles and Prince Harry. But let me tell you, it's very bad news. Speaking of bad news, I've been listening to episode 2 of Meghan Markle's dreadful new podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder. In fact, the show is so bad, it's so self-indulgent, it's so boring. It makes With Love Meghan, her Netflix lifestyle series, seem like The Sopranos by comparison. Now, there's actually controversy around the name. I've only just discovered this. This is actually a Mark Dolan show exclusive. I can tell you that whilst the name Confessions of a Female Founder may be attributed to the Duchess of Sussex's new show, in fact, there's a podcast of that name already in circulation. It's been going for 2 years. And it's hosted by an actual entrepreneur that's actually been successful, unlike the Duchess. This lady is called Katie Maite, and she's a British young woman, and she's been very enterprising. She's been very successful. And I found her podcast authentic, entertaining, surprising, educational. None of that you'll get from Confessions of a Female Founder, the Meghan version. But by the way, what is it with Meghan stealing other people's names? I mean, first of all, she's got an army of staff, hasn't she? The ones that she hasn't fired. Because we know that she gets through staff members like James Corden gets through Krispy Kreme donuts. She loves firing people. That's what she does. And eventually it'll be Harry that she finally gives the axe to. But look, she's got people. She's got staff. Could they not have searched online and checked that there wasn't already a podcast called Confessions of a Female Founder? Because it took me 3 seconds to find it. I was looking for Meghan's podcast on YouTube and I got this far superior offering. Did no one check? Did Meghan check? I think that Meghan knew and she just thought, well, this Katie Maite lady is smaller than me. She's insignificant. She's not famous. She's not married to a prince. She can't say that my husband is Prince Harry. No, poor Katie Maite's probably just got some ordinary bloke, like a carpet fitter or something, or a truck driver. Who knows what Mr. Maite does? Although I bet he's less of a misery guts than Prince Harry. I bet he doesn't moan about his life all the time. So, no, honestly, I'd rather do a podcast focused on this lady, Katie Maite, Confessions of a Female Founder. Meghan stole the title, which I think is a disgrace. This is not the first time she's done that. Of course, she stole her name for her lifestyle brand, which is called As Ever, from a New York fashion firm, right? A little kind of company selling very nice blouses and pullovers and all the rest of it. Fancy gear, premium New York City style. And they're called As Ever. And Meghan took that name. So she's taken the name of a podcast from someone else, taken the name of a lifestyle brand from someone else. Why does she do that? Why is she such a thief? Well, the answer is because she's never had an original idea in her life. The only idea she's ever had that paid off was flying to England and marrying a prince. That has been and that will continue to be her meal ticket. So this episode 2 of Confessions of a Female Founder, it features Reshma Saujani, who is a very impressive lady, a very nice lady, founder of Mums First and also Girls That Code. So she's a brilliant entrepreneur. She's quite an insightful lady when she was allowed to speak. Because don't forget that Meghan Markle is basically a talk show host that doesn't want her guests to talk. Okay, she has the listening talents of a porcelain teapot. She has the listening talents of a drained radiator. She has the listening talents of a comatose otter. She's not a listener because it's all about Meghan. It's all about me. So Reshma Saujani is an interesting lady and she's had a great career and she inspired me very much for the 11 seconds of her speaking. The rest of it, by the way, 45 minutes of my life that I won't get back. She smashes in with an anecdote about her kids are sick, but she still shows up. Right. So Meghan is proud of the fact that when her children are unwell, she sort of stays in the house and looks after them. That's her big brag in this episode. That's because don't forget, this podcast is all about establishing Meghan as an amazing human being. She's just inspirational. She's wise. She's witty. She's a great leader. She's a great lady. I mean, everything's perfect. She's glamorous. And she's the perfect mother and the perfect wife. So she's so proud of the fact that she stays at home when the kids aren't well. Because, yes, she's showing up for them. So it turns out, by the way, why are you interrupting your guest's anecdote with an announcement that your kids are ill? And by the way, we could get quite shocked by this. This could be a big story. This could be a Mark Dolan show exclusive. Lilibet and the other one, as she likes to call him, because I honestly think Archie is a second-class citizen in the house because he reminds her of Harry. And I think, well, yeah. So I thought maybe they're in the emergency room. This is it life support machine that they're hooked up to, and being given the last rites. No such drama. It turns out that one has something called RSV. Now I don't know whether it's Lilibet or Archie, the other one, but one of them's got RSV, which I thought was a vehicle that Americans use to go on holiday. But apparently it's basically a glamorous name for a cold. And then the other one has got influenza A, which is the flu. Why do these celebrities get to sort of name ordinary illnesses and make them sound a little more elaborate, a bit more dramatic? Both of kids are basically, they've got a runny nose and a cough is what they've got. But no. My children, they've got RSV and influenza A. So there you go. Look, I wish the kids well, but I think that they may survive the night is all I'm saying. But she had to insist to her guest that she'd been up all night, which I don't believe, because I don't believe a word this woman says. As I've said to you before, I admire her tenacity. This is someone that's very good at getting what she wants. I mean, for that, she is extraordinarily gifted. But she ain't real. And I do not believe a word she says. If I lived with her, God forbid, I'd obviously have done something bad in a previous life if that ever happened. But if I cohabited with Meghan Markle, God, can you imagine if I was her husband? So the bottom line is, well, I think after these videos, that's even less likely, let's be honest. I might have burnt my bridges there. So Markle, if you cohabited with her and you said, what's the weather like? She'd, oh, it's sunny. I would bring a raincoat because she has no credibility to me. I don't believe a word she says. She's a phony. She's a fake. But she's very accomplished at what she does. Anyway, so she's been banging on it. I don't think, she said, I was giving them cough syrup all night and rubbing their back. Forget that. Poor old Harry doesn't even get that these days. No. I'm sure that the help, looked after the kids while Meghan got her beauty sleep and her 8 hours with her little 2 cucumbers, sliced cucumbers on her eyes, and God knows what else she does as a nighttime routine. Rubs her skin with one of those damp lavender towels from the TV show on Netflix. Anyway, the bottom line is, okay, I hope the kids are better, but they've got a cold. I don't know why that should, manifest itself in what felt like 7-hour anecdote. So that's that. The kids are fine, but she's an amazing mother. Reshma Saujani, as I mentioned, is the founder of these two very good organizations. Reshma, by the way, one connection that Meghan and Reshma had is that Reshma now runs a non-profit, and Meghan knows all about that because the Spotify project was non-profit. There was no profit. The ill-fated As Ever brand, where she basically has got this quite dusty old jam and these flower sprinkles, that's non-profit so far. And what about American Riviera Orchard? A complete catastrophe. Another non-profit. It will always be a non-profit when Meghan's in charge. So when did Reshma meet Meghan? Well, they met in 2018 when lovely Meghan was expecting Archie, I think, or she had Archie. I forgot the intel because I had nodded off at that point. The medication was starting to wear off. But they met at Kensington Palace, and Meghan said, you know what, why did you come to see me at that time? Why did we meet? And this lady said, because you're an amazing, incredible person. And that is the theme of this series. It's basically people on a podcast telling Meghan how amazing she is. And that's exactly what the Netflix show was like as well. You're amazing, you're amazing. And whenever she says anything on the TV show and on this podcast, her guests always say, I love that, I love that, oh, I love that. Because you've always got to keep reassuring her that she's amazing, because she's so incredibly thin-skinned and ridiculously, insanely insecure. So I thought that was absurd. And, you know, if it was my podcast, if my guest said, you're an amazing human being, I would cut that out, because it's embarrassing and it's not a good look that you would publish an interview in which someone is telling you you're this inspirational, remarkable person. It's pretty crazy. And Meghan's response, any normal person would say, oh, I'm not an amazing person, don't be silly. Instead, with Meghan, it's like, thank you. Oh, thank you. Yes, I am. Thank you so much. So basically, this show, it's like listening to, if a cult had a podcast. You know what a cult is? You know, when some crazy individual manages to trick 50 rather broken individuals into believing that there's some higher power guiding everything, and, you know, it's a sort of totalitarian regime. Normally they'll find a disused gymnasium or something, and they're all trapped. They can't escape this creepy religion. Well, that's the religion of Meghanism that we're all subjected to in this podcast. The cult of Meghan. Meghan she's such a cult. And yeah, so I'm really tired of all her guests constantly telling her how amazing she is, but it happens again today. Her guest, by the way, talks about the time she ran for Congress, which worried me because I thought it might give Meghan ideas about becoming the next US president. And I think at that point, it really is game over for the United States. But yeah, so that's it. She's got the talk show. Meghan, by the way, in the podcast revealed a couple of interesting things. She is, as I've said, good at getting what she wants. And the reason why is because she's manipulative. And she demonstrated that because she said to this successful entrepreneur, I've got a trick of how to get money out of people. And the entrepreneur said, oh, how do you do that? And Meghan said, well, if you want money, ask for advice. Okay. And if you want advice, ask for money. So Meghan's idea was that if you go to an entrepreneur, like a hedge fund or a venture capitalist, and you say, please give me your money, they're always on the defensive. But if you say, hey, can you just give me some advice on my business model? And then they look at the business model and then they think, oh, I quite like your business model. Do you want some money? So that was the psychology. And it just goes to show how Meghan's mind works, that she is manipulative. She's very smart. And that is just 1% of her knowledge about how to manipulate people. So actually, if there was a podcast that would be of any use, or a TV show of any use, or a book from Meghan, it would be a book called How to Deceive and Manipulate People. And it would be a great read, and it would be authentic, and it would all of the stuff in the book would work, because the way that Meghan operates does work. She is good at getting what she wants and manipulating people and tricking people, and she's a good liar. So I'm ready for that book, Meghan. Let's get publishing on that. I would definitely read it. Listen, I've got a lot more for you, but can I just say cheers? It's a little drop of decaf. This is my let's slip here. Delicious as always. This is my mum mug. In the UK, mum. In America, mom, M-O-M. Obviously, I think it's pretty clear this is not my mug, although I have been referred to as a mother in the past by some people. But listen, let's get to some really important aspects of what I heard today. Meghan in the podcast says that mum is her favorite title, calling it, it's my favorite thing. Well, she's an amazing mother, isn't she? She stays in the building when the children aren't well. That's truly miraculous. No one's ever done that before. She describes motherhood as overwhelming but emotionally fulfilling. She shares what's basically being sold as a relatable anecdote, because Meghan is so relatable, isn't she? Living in a 16-bathroom mansion in Montecito with, I believe, a value of $20 million. A previous Hollywood career. She's married to the son of the King of England. She's so relatable. And what does she say? She says, you step into the other room thinking you need a break and then start scrolling through pictures of your kids. And she said, and it was the first time in this series that we got a reference to my husband. So if you're new to the show, I noticed during her Netflix series that Meghan refers to Harry as H, which I consider a profound insult to Harry. That's demeaning, isn't it? His name is Harry. It's a fine name, and it's a name that he was given by his parents, Prince Charles and Princess Diana. I mean, you cannot buy pedigree like that. Imagine your mum and dad are Charles and Diana, and they came up with Harry. And in a way of undermining and belittling Harry, she calls him H, which is, I mean, to me, H sounds like a drug dealer, don't you think? A really dodgy character, H. Can you imagine that? Oh, we need a babysitter for the kids. We're going to the cinema tonight. We need a babysitter. I know a guy called H. Should we get him to do it? No, you would not leave someone called H in the care of your children. It is a sketchy name, isn't it? H. I wouldn't trust someone called H as far as I could throw him. And that's what she calls him. It's an insulting nickname, which I'm sure he didn't choose. She'll have come up with it because she decides everything. And I can't imagine that Charles and William and any of the royals like the fact that their boy, their young man, their son, their brother is being called H. But I think that's what Meghan does. I think she's keeping him small. She's putting him in his place. And also, it's what they call a humble brag. Do you know what a humble brag is? Found that out recently. It's when you say something which is not meant to be the main part of your comment, but you're just revealing. So it's a bit like, I don't know, it's like, how can I put it? A humble brag would be something like, oh yeah, I enjoyed reading that book when I was on a skiing holiday with Hugh Grant. I really enjoyed that book whilst I was skiing with Hugh Grant. So you're pretending that it's about reading the book, but you've got to tell people that you've been skiing with Hugh Grant. It's a humble brag. And her humble brag is not mentioning Harry's name, but calling him my husband, because then it's like, oh, we're all like, that's a nod and a wink to, it's Harry. So there you go. But so that's why. But in this second episode now, we get the first reference to my husband. My husband encourages me to relax. He says, my love, can you give yourself a minute? Go work out. Take a bath. I mean, ridiculous. Is that even true? Does Harry say that? Who knows? We'll never know what Harry says because he lives in an underground lair about 20 feet in the basement of that 20 feet deep in the basement of that Montecito mansion, just chained to a radiator to which only Meghan's got the keys. She talked about the mental challenge of parenting and work. She reflects on the blurred lines of working and parenting from home, which intensified during the pandemic. It must have been so hard for Meghan and Harry during the pandemic in an enormous house with a huge garden and all of their millions of dollars in the bank. How did they possibly survive that global health crisis? You can only imagine. She describes the pressures of juggling both roles simultaneously. How are you going to do that? How are you going to work and parent from home? Well, I don't know. Ask every other parent that got through the pandemic in one piece, many of whom in tiny, cramped, rented accommodation. But no, it's all about Megs. There was a very moving moment, and this is a topic and an area that there's all you can say is to be deeply sympathetic, and it is very, very sad. So this was about miscarriage because Meghan's lovely guest has suffered it. It's the most tragic thing, incredibly common. I think upwards of 10% of pregnancies do miscarry or end up in miscarriage. And it happened to Meghan in 2020. And that's really, really sad. And she was very brave when she talked about it. She told the papers, New York Times in 2020, she talked about that. And that is really, really sad. Of course it is. And that came up. And I don't think you can criticize Meghan for mentioning it because her guest mentioned it. And then Meghan kind of chipped in and said, I've been there too. And That's it. There you go, folks. A rare positive from the podcast, which is two accomplished women. Well, one accomplished woman and one rather annoying upstart. But the bottom line is that they talked about that experience, and anyone listening that's been through the same thing will have been comforted to hear these two people talk about what they've been through. It's incredibly common. I've known many people close to me that have experienced it as well. So that was a good positive aspect of the podcast, but don't expect it to last. That will be it. I have got bad news for Megs, because as of last Friday, three days after the release of episode 1 of Confessions of a CEO founder, female founder, Confessions. By the way, it's a very clunky name. I don't know why would you steal such a bad name? Confessions of a female founder. 3 days after the release of episode 1, it was down at number 19 on Spotify's general top podcast chart in the US. Number 19 after 3 days, and it is now heading south. It is heading to the southern border, folks. It's not looking good. It compares very badly to their terrible podcast from 2022, which was called Archetypes, which is so bad it caused Spotify to tear up the deal. So it's worse than that. It was worse than this podcast, but it's also performing worse as well. So Archetypes was actually number 1 in the podcast chart at the same time. So it's a bomb. It's tanking, understandably so. I'm only listening to it because I've got to, so you don't have to. Another thing to say is that it's got terrible reviews. So, for example, it's been described as it's giving vapid lessons in self-love and an ego-fluffing conversation. So it was given 1 star in the Times newspaper, which is one of the most revered newspaper titles in the world, the Times of London. 1 star after its columnist James Marriott was seized by an urge to beat my head against the wall. The Irish Times reviewer Laura Slattery condemned the mutual love-in of a multimillionaire and a duchess who want credit for daring to love themselves. Natalie Oliveri, royal reporter for the Australian women's network 9 Honey, joked that there were certain prerequisites, it seems, that the duchess must have before booking a guest. They need to be friends with the guest and should praise Meghan wherever possible. Meghan, you're an amazing person. Thank you. Yes, I am. It comes after the Telegraph, the Evening Standard, and the Guardian all gave the Lemonada media show 2 stars amid other withering write-ups in the Express and the iPaper, which saw the podcast branded an inane stream of mindless aphorisms and stomach-turning. It's hilarious, I've got to say. The Guardian in particular is a surprise, because you would expect the Guardian to be pretty pro-Meghan, really, because there's many that consider Meghan to be a touch on the woke side. Guardian's a bit woke. You'd think they would love this big sort of, celebration of feminist entrepreneurship. But no, the Guardian hated it. So there you go. We will, of course, be reporting on episode 3 when it drops in a week's time. I'm dreading it already. Before we go, I've got a development on Prince Harry and King Charles. So it's been confirmed they haven't seen each other for over a year, which is incredibly tragic given the fact that Charles is battling cancer. A top royal insider has described their relationship as febrile and increasingly distant. Now, we know it's game over for William and Harry. And in the comments, you've said to me that you do not think that William should ever forgive Harry. And you're very surprised that I'm being in any way sympathetic to the H-bomb. And I can understand why you feel that way. And I would certainly observe that at the moment, his relationship with William looks absolutely unsalvageable. Never say never. But there was always hope for Charles and William. I think partly because Charles has a different demeanor, a slightly different personality to William. I think William is no nonsense. I think he's to the point. I don't think that he sugarcoats the pill. I think William is a strong personality. He's got a strong will. I don't think he takes any nonsense. And that's why he's so done. He's so over with his own brother. Whereas I think Charles is a little more forgiving. I think Charles is willing to soak up a bit of abuse, soak up a bit of pain. I think he's more tolerant, Charles. I think he's more patient than William, who's just not having it. But so therefore I've got a degree of hope for Charles and Harry. But no, it's not looking good. Harry, of course, in London last week for his court case. But he and his father did not meet, despite being in the UK at the same time. Harry, and here's the bombshell, reportedly knows nothing about Charles's cancer situation. Okay, he's completely in the dark about where Charles is with his cancer. That must be tough, having to Google the health of your father to get an update. During Charles's recent hospital stay, it's been reported that Harry allegedly only found out by watching the news. Friends of Harry told People magazine that Charles has been unavailable during Harry's last 3 visits to the UK. A palace source quoted in the article said, "I don't think there is any rapprochement." It's been suggested that the king is keeping his distance to avoid discussions about Harry's security arrangements, but a source added that things between them have been febrile for a while. It's not surprising, is it? It's not surprising that Harry is having trouble getting hold of his father, because his father is obviously showing Harry the consequences of his actions. But as I told you on a mountaintop in Wales just a few days ago, when I had to interrupt my holiday to deal with Prince Harry and his ridiculous court case, I remember saying that I wouldn't take no for an answer. If that's my old man, I'm going to Clarence House. I'm going to Sandringham. I'm going to Buckingham Palace. They're not going to refuse Prince Harry entry to Buckingham Palace, are they? Well, he knows which buzzer to ring. He's probably still got keys, unless they've changed the locks, which wouldn't be a bad idea, mainly to keep Meghan out. But there you go. I'll give you the latest when I get it on Charles and Harry. But at the moment, it's not looking good. And the thing is, there's so much at stake. And the reason why is twofold. Not just because Charles has cancer, but because Charles is an older man and he's in his 70s. He won't be there forever. So that relationship needs to be fixed ASAP. And also, so you got the cancer, he's got his age, it's got to be resolved, but it's not looking good at the moment. And then I've got a hilarious inside story from a good friend of mine, Neil Sean, of course, an excellent royal broadcaster, royal reporter. Check out his very fine YouTube channel. And Neil Sean has told Fox News Digital that Meghan wants to clear the air with King Charles, and she's sent him to Clarence House, sent him a box of her jams and her sprinkles and aprons and all the other, I believe, crepe mix. What a load of crepe. So apparently she's sent Charles a goodie bag. That's not going to save the relationship. That is going to destroy the relationship once and for all. Charles is a man with a sophisticated palate. He doesn't want to eat her sickly sweet jam, which has probably got her eyelashes in it. A few locks of her jet black hair stirred into the pot. Not having it. So I do think that Charles, what he should do, by the way, if Meghan tries to send him anything in the post, just, when the postman rings the doorbell, just to tell him, I'm not here. Tell him I'm out. Send it back, please. Return to sender. Address unknown. So there you go. Folks, it's been great chatting. I look forward to the next Dolan Unfiltered. We've always got material to work with, always got breaking stories. Stay awesome, and I'll see you for the next one. Don't forget to subscribe if you can. Hit the notification bell. Go and have a great day. Catch up soon. My husband, we call him H. It's so wonderful meeting female entrepreneurs like me. I'm a very successful entrepreneur, even though none of my businesses have ever made money. But I'm very successful and very clever. My children aren't well. They've got affluenza Z and RV. And the most important thing to me is family, being close to my husband, my children, and my wonderful sister-in-law, Princess Catherine. I like Princess Catherine. She's a good person. I only want the best for her. I wish no harm on Princess Catherine. She is my friend. Gimme a man after midnight. We shall fight them on the beaches. Feel the force, Luke. Princess Catherine is my friend.